So you've been thinking about relocating to Idaho, but if you're anything like I was when I was deciding whether or not this is the place I should call home, I wish somebody would tell me all the reasons I shouldn't move here. That way I would know whether or not this was the true fit for me and my family. In this video, I am going to give you the top reasons why you shouldn't relocate here, and by the end of this, you'll know whether or not you should think twice before relocating to Boise, Idaho. Let's get after it right now. My name's Rachel, and on this channel I do my very best to teach you everything there is about working, playing, living, and relocating to Idaho. So if you need a community where you can get information about just that, go ahead and tap the subscribe button and click this little bell. That way you never miss one of my videos on relocating to Idaho. When I say community, I mean it. Make this station, this channel yours. Go ahead and write comments, ask questions, and share information about what's going on with you and your journey under this video. I read everything and I try my best to address the topics that you're sharing in my upcoming videos. If you need help relocating here, I do run the #1 relocation team in Idaho. So go ahead, give us a call, shoot us a text, or write us an email. We've got your back when relocating to Idaho. No further ado, let's jump into the top reasons why you might want to think twice before relocating to Idaho. Just like with anything else, one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? And I am vividly aware that a lot of the reasons why people don't want to live in Idaho are reasons why you may want to relocate to Idaho. So I'm going to give a pretty broad overview and then speak specifically to who my audience is. So I am a mama, I call myself a prayer warrior, and I myself was a political refugee. So on this channel, when I'm speaking to these pros and cons, that's typically where my perspective is coming from. Now, I do work with a lot of people. We helped almost 200 families relocate last year, and I know that not everyone's in that boat, and so I do share a little bit of an outside perspective from my own. So if not everything is hitting home with you, keep listening. I try my best to really include everybody in my videos. Okay, let's jump right in. So reason number one, it's not what you think it is. Idaho just isn't what a lot of people think it is. So many of you may have seen the show Yellowstone.
Yes, ma'am.
And I get the impression with a lot of people who call that Idaho is similar to what you would get if you were relocating to certain parts of Montana.
Yes, in Montana.
While there are some things in Boise that are very similar to Montana, we have really grown a lot here. So depending on which suburb you end up in, there's a lot of houses, a lot of communities, a lot of HOAs, and the downside to that is they're built around 2-lane roads because this was a farm town not that long ago, and really it still is a farm town in a lot of ways. You can be driving to one of our biggest shopping centers, and right across the street you'll see them chucking corn and pulling up onions because there are still pockets of farms all throughout. So if you think that you're either going to get something that is totally developed with all of the resources of somewhere like that's been established for a long time, like where you might be living in California, you're wrong. But at the other end of that, if you think you're going to get a small town country feel, you're probably wrong too. That's why it's important to reach out when you're considering relocating here so that we can really sit down and help you figure out what makes sense for you and your family. Because while Boise is a city, it still doesn't have a lot of the amenities that somewhere like Los Angeles, Seattle, Salt Lake, Austin, Houston, Texas might have. And believe it or not, a lot of the people who live in Boise actually drive out to Meridian or even Nampa, depending on what they're looking for some of the services. So It's just not what you think. It's really important that we sit down and figure out what is you're envisioning and whether or not that's actually something that you can obtain here, because I believe that if you're flexible with what suburb you're interested in, we can probably help you locate something spot on or really similar. But I think it's hard when people relocate and they pick a place like, so I'll just give an example like Star, Idaho. I've had a lot of people give us a call after relocating to Star, Idaho, and they're just like, this isn't what I expected. I didn't realize when I was at the grocery store that I could be in line for more than 10 minutes.
The line is too long.
And while Star, Idaho is very small, recently it was a farm town, and now what has happened is the actual physical size of Star is pretty little, but a lot of people have moved in. So per square foot in Star, you're looking at a pretty high head count, and then the roads and the development and the rest of it hasn't quite caught up with all of the new growth. So there's a ton of traffic. So yes, you will get Farmer John driving down the road on his tractor, but you're also going to get maybe the same kind of traffic that you're getting in San Jose or Orange County, depending on what time of day it is. When you've got one road in and one road out and a lot of people in a really small packed in area, you're not going to get the same feel that you're envisioning. So having these conversations, it's super important. On the flip side of that, a lot of people hear, Meridian, Idaho. Meridian is the place to be. It's got all the shopping and it's pretty well developed, and they've tried to really emulate a lot of the looks and feels of what you're used to in California. And while that's true, we still don't have a Whole Foods. We don't have a Nordstrom. So a lot of the things that you're used to, you're just not going to get here because we just haven't caught up. And while there's people, there's still houses being built, roads are still being expanded, and it just is super important that you call us so that we can really help you determine which area is the right fit for you and your family. Another reason is poor accessibility. So I touched on this a little bit already when I said it's not what you would expect, but I have a lot of families calling who are really interested in relocating to Eagle, Idaho, for example. So Eagle, Idaho, there's not easy access to the freeway. So if you're somebody who is looking to commute downtown, or you want to be able to have access to everything all the time, Eagle, Idaho might be somewhere that you really think twice before relocating to. Another way that we have some poor accessibility is we don't have all of the medical specialties that you may be used to or that you might need down the road. With that being said, we are relocated close enough to a lot of major cities that people are really able to work it out and get the access to the help they need. But neurology, for example, there's a long waiting list, and you have to not just get on that waiting list to be seen, but your need needs to be a high priority, or you could get bumped back down. So depending on what it is that you want accessibility to, you may or may not be able to access that here, depending on where you live. I'm going to piggyback off of that for number 3, and that's jobs. We just don't have accessibility to a lot of the higher paying jobs, or even jobs that you're used to getting paid quite a bit for wherever you're living, and now you're looking at moving to Idaho and you're seeing that you would be offered half, maybe even less than half of what you're used to making where you're living. Our job market here, while we're doing things to incentivize big corporations and companies to come in here, there's just not a lot of high paying jobs. A lot of people are looking to work remotely. And while COVID made that more common, you'd actually be surprised at how difficult some companies are making it for you to relocate to another state and let you have a residence in Idaho while you're working for them. And that's something that our team can help you really look into. And believe it or not, it's something we run into almost daily. You'd really be surprised because you heard, 10 other people in my company relocated to Idaho. They're they're working remotely. Well, that might not be the case any longer. So give us a call, shoot us a text, write us an email. Let us help you sit down and figure out whether or not you can keep your job and qualify for that loan, whether or not your industry is in demand here. And at the end of the day, if you have any kind of entrepreneurial spirit or something you're passionate about, and you're not just looking for a change in community and a new state to live in, but maybe a change in career path, Idaho is open for businesses. We're open for new industry. We need restaurants. We need childcare services. We need so many things. There's so many people who have come in, and we just don't have enough businesses to sustain that. And our state is doing a lot of really great things to help people open businesses here. Our governor, wow, there's a lot of controversy around our governor, which is a whole nother video.
Tell me about it.
One of the great things that he did do when he first came into office is he made a historical amount of red tape cuts and cut back so many of the I was gonna say the word restrictions. So we're the least regulated state in the nation, which is a beautiful place. As an entrepreneur myself, I know it's wonderful to live in a place like Idaho when you just want the freedom to start and run your business the way that you know is best for you.
Yes, freedom!
Okay, the next reason is home prices. So I realize there's a lot of doom and gloom videos floating around the internet, a lot of conspiracies about and opinions about whether or not you should buy a home now, never, if the market's gonna crash, if it's gonna go up.
The market's crashing.
No.
The housing market collapsed nationwide.
I have heard the gamut of all of it, and I'm not going to bore you on all the data and details. I'm just going to simplify this, and if you really want a deeper, longer explanation, no problem, I will give it to you, but I'm trying my best not to make most people fall asleep.
Who's asleep?
What I am going to say about the home prices here in Idaho, yes, they have gone up significantly from where they were 5, 6, 7 years ago. The house prices are nothing like they used to be. They have leveled out some, and they're staying pretty consistent now from when they started to drop down. And it really depends on the price point and whether or not you're getting resale, new construction, what exactly those prices look like. Yes, the interest rates on loans at this moment in time are very high. And while we do believe that they are going to go down some, it's never more than likely, I don't have a crystal ball and I don't claim to, going to be where it was just a couple years ago. So when is the best time for you to buy, and what is the right time, or what's the right price for the house? Like, when should you be waiting because the house price is going to go down? That depends on you. How long do you want to stay in that house for? Is this an investment? Like, are you thinking you're just going to live there a little while and turn it into a long-term rental? Because that's probably not a good decision. But if you're buying this house and you want to stay in it for a long time, I can almost guarantee, and again, I don't have a crystal ball, that whatever you purchase today is going to be worth a lot more in 10 years. And with these high interest rates, there's not a lot of competition right now to buy a house. A couple years ago, when the interest rates were lower, people were actually spending more on a house than what it was valued at, because they would go in, let's say the house was a $500,000 house and 10 other people wanted it. They were willing to spend $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 more on the house and move in with a loss than they would had those interest rates not been low and there wasn't bidding wars. So people were buying houses for way more than they were worth. At least now with these high interest rates, you're more than likely getting the house for what it's worth, maybe in some situations slightly less than what it would be appraised for. And our money guy, Addie, who's the most wonderful lender there is in the United States, and I mean that, the guy is an educator and he is a mentor to many other people in his industry. He offers products like many other lenders do, where you get the opportunity to refi for no charge when those interest rates do drop. There's also some ways to buy down points and make those interest rates a little lower, which does not make sense in a lot of cases. A lot of people will sell you mortgages that way, and it's really important to have somebody super honest like Addie, our money guy, really sit down and give you a spreadsheet to help you see whether or not spending that extra money buying down points makes sense. So home prices, you may not be able to sell your house there in California or wherever you're relocating from and then come here and pay cash like you could have a while back, but the values here are going to continue to rise. So let's figure out what it is that makes sense specifically for you and whether or not those prices are, a bummer or not. If you want to stay in a home, there's no better time than yesterday, right? So today.
The housing market is rock solid.
Rumors. People are choosing not to relocate to Idaho because they believe the rumors.
Started a rumor.
What rumor?
So I'm going to help pick apart some of these rumors because while a lot of them have a grain of truth, they are not reasons necessarily why you shouldn't relocate to Idaho, but I think it's important to address them, even though this video is about why to not move to Idaho, just so that you can kind of understand where some of these came from and what the real truth is. So rumor number 1, Idaho's racist.
What did you say? No!
When I heard that Idaho is racist, I kind of chuckled because I myself have never seen it or experienced it. And initially I thought, people are making that claim because it's not as diverse as a lot of other areas. And I grew up in Southern California. It's extremely diverse, and I think it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I learned a lot about a ton of cultures, a ton of people, and I grew up eating great food from all around the world. So I think the lack of diversity here in Idaho is definitely a con, and I would actually say that most people here agree with that. Where the rumor comes from that Idaho is racist is that there was a clan in northern Idaho. They're not super active, and there's not that many of KKK members in northern Idaho. I'll say that I know a lot of people who have relocated to northern Idaho. I know a lot of people who grew up there, and I don't know a single person who condones that kind of behavior or activity, and I have yet to meet a single person who is racist living here in the part of Idaho that I'm in. I've lived in Boise, Eagle, Star, and now I'm on the Meridian Eagle border, but still in Eagle. Not met a single person. With that being said, we're not super politically correct here yet. That has not caught on. So I think every now and then you might hear somebody use a phrase or the terminology. Nothing vulgar, nothing totally inappropriate, just not fully politically correct. And that might be a little off-putting to someone who isn't used to that anymore. And whether or not you agree with being politically correct, I am going to leave that up to you. So that's one of the rumors that really leaves a bad taste in people's mouth, and I just think it's totally not fair to say that about Idaho. People here are very loving, very kind, very accepting, and there's a lot of believers here, and believers believe that people were created in the image of God. We're all equal, we're all His children. So I'm just going to leave that right there. The other rumor that is really popular that I hear is that people here hate Californians. Let me tell you, there's a lot more people in my life who are Californians that are now Idahoans than Idahoans who are just here. I have a handful of friends that are from Idaho, born and raised, multiple generations, and in our group, our Bible study at school, you name it, there's always more people who moved here from Californians than Idahoans, and my friends don't seem to mind at all. Where you'll get crazy California hate speech type stuff is on the internet, in Facebook groups. I've never ever seen somebody do or say anything directly to somebody's face. We do always recommend that you replace that California license plate really quickly, because I have heard again in the Facebook groups that people will leave nasty notes on cars, and every now and then, while we don't have a problem with graffiti here, some rum-dum spray paints Californians suck on walls, and within a day or two it's gone. I've even seen people in the community themselves going out and taking care of it and washing it off. It's totally unacceptable, but I think where some of that is having life breathed into it is that when people relocate here, they feel shy or kind of banter themselves about having relocated here from California. You know what? If you relocated here from out of state, own it, be proud of it. I think you did something really amazing and incredible for yourself and your family, and you're putting your dollars where your values are, and you're saying no to all of the craziness and chaos and evil that's going on in other places by making the decision to move here. So be proud of that. I'll also say that you'll see trucks driving around that have American flags, don't tread on me flags. Let me tell you, that's probably not someone who was born and raised in Idaho. That's probably somebody who relocated here from California. I have had families who were thinking about relocating to Texas, and we work with a couple teams in Texas, and what people say is that you can move to Texas, but they will never consider you a Texan. When you move to Idaho, you consider yourself an Idahoan, and everyone else here does too. The amount of people who are just so proud and so relieved to be here and in this environment and surrounded by other like-minded individuals is huge. There's so much patriotism, American flags everywhere, you name it, it's clean and safe. So the rumors, that's a distraction. Let it go in one ear, out the other, and bring your values and your votes here. Foodies are starving. What do I mean by that? So if you're coming here from Orange County, San Jose, San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, you name it, anywhere else that is more diverse and has just more industry than what we have, then you're probably used to some really good food. Here in the Treasure Valley, Idaho, which I say Treasure Valley a lot, for those of you who don't know, it's Boise and the surrounding suburbs. That's what we call the Treasure Valley.
Oh, so that's what it is.
There is just not a plethora of food like there is in other places. Now, with that being said, we do have some really incredible local farm-to-table restaurants, and we are starting to get some more food coming in from other cultures. Something that might surprise you is we have a very large Basque population here, and Basque food is absolutely incredible. You've got to try going to the Basque Festival. They actually have an interesting drink where they do Coca-Cola, half wine, and they make just some really incredible dishes. So there are some new and fun surprises here, but I'll just give you an example. If you really love good, authentic Mexican food and you relocate to Eagle, Idaho, you're going to be driving outside of Eagle, Idaho to get some good Mexican food. You'll probably end up more in Nampa or Caldwell. If you're looking for a Michelin 5-star restaurant, there are a couple that had Michelin star chefs that have opened in Boise, and they're actually opening just a couple here in Meridian, Idaho, right on the border of Meridian and Eagle. But I'm a big foodie myself, and I used to live in Seattle. I think the best food in the world is in Seattle. My husband's from Portland, and both of us will say, as far as the food goes here, we've kind of found what is good and we stick to it. There's not a big variety of really good restaurants. So just be prepared for that and be patient. And if you're a good cook, please, we're desperate for your good food. Open a restaurant. Mosquitoes, wasps, and flies. If you don't like the bugs, this is probably not the place for you. We actually have a season here that we call fly season, and it is currently going on as we speak. It's the end of summer, start of fall. The flies come out. They are extra large around the farms. So in Kuna, we refer to the flies as Kuna birds because they are so big. If you have animals, pick up their waste quickly because you're not going to be thrilled with what happens when you don't. Sitting outside in the beautiful weather, you're going to want to have some fans going. If you're sitting outside eating, reading or just relaxing, there's a lot of flies here. And then as far as wasps go, it's pretty crazy.
Those are wasps. I hate wasps.
Absolutely insane and aggressive here. There's been a handful of times I've been in the shower and a wasp has been in the shower. Same things happened when my kiddo was in the shower. Our house is sealed off wonderfully. I don't know how this happens. I think getting some ongoing maintenance and pest control services where they come out and do some spraying is going to come in really handy for you.
Wasps.
I'm not sure that you want to take a natural approach unless it's a company coming in to handle it, because if not, your kids are going to be climbing on playground equipment and out comes, you know, a hornet's nest. They're in the ground, in your toys. They kind of just plant a nest anywhere and they're nasty. There's also a lot of mosquitoes, but your HOA dues, no, not your HOA dues, your taxes cover mosquito abatement. So there are going to be times where they tell you, hey, we're coming by with a truck and we're gonna spray for mosquitoes or spray from up in the sky. Don't freak out. We need those mosquitoes to be taken care of. Now, I see a lot more complaints about the mosquitoes in Middleton, Star, and Eagle than anywhere else. There's a lot of communities that are sitting along natural bodies of water or have man-made bodies of water. All you need to do is call Ada County Abatement and they will come out and take care of the situation for you. So there's definitely things to help with the wasps and hornets and mosquitoes, but those flies, pick up your dog poop as quick as you can. And if you're gonna sit outside, bring out a little fan. There's even restaurants that sit a little fan on your table before your food comes out and it spins, because guys, I'm not kidding, the flies are crazy here. It's cray cray.
It's an ugly planet, a bug planet.
Our kids were masked when they were in school. A lot of people are surprised to hear that the public schools here were requiring masks, and people think, I'm gonna move to Idaho, I'm gonna put my kid in a public school, and it's gonna be nothing like where we're coming from. That is not 100% true. Now, the biggest difference between the public schools here and where you might be moving from is the community. The parents are not okay with craziness, and we are all determined to protect our children. So things aren't just like brushed under the rug. People aren't scared to get involved where things may appear like high conflict situations. People here speak up for their kids, and if public school is not something that you're into, we have an incredible homeschool community here. Tons of co-ops, lots of resources for people. We also have a lot of very, very good private schools. My daughter is in private school and we absolutely love it. They didn't mask there. They did not shut down for COVID. It's great. So one of the school districts that's highly sought after here had said to parents, you know, when it's time to re-enroll your kid in school, you can line up, fill out a form, and opt them out of masks. So the line was around the building. A lot of parents signed up to opt their kids out of masks. They got them enrolled, school started, and boom, they took away that option. So it felt like a lot of a bait and switch was going on. Remember, public schools are still government schools. So there is still a lot of that, but the amount of people who in this community who took their kids out of school and really stood up to the mask mandates was pretty amazing to see, and it made me feel really proud of our community here. We do have a lot of charter schools that are no extra cost, and they run on a lottery system. They're very popular and very in demand, and you're going to want to check what their policies were, because from charter school to charter school it was different. And you're also going to need a plan B if you don't get into the charter school you want. So just keep it front of mind that public schools are still government ran, and you're probably getting an 80% improvement from the kind of garbage that you're used to experiencing where you're at. Planning. The planning here is horrible. Horrible! Like, I want to say, what planning? So people come in, they propose a development or they propose businesses, and the government here is kind of like, okay, go for it. They don't really take into account very well, like, hey, do we have enough emergency medical services or medical providers or enough schools? There's communities here who have built schools in the community, and if you buy a house there, it doesn't necessarily mean that your kid gets to go there because it's already full. They'll widen a road, but they don't paint over the old, white turn arrows on the ground. There's restaurants with drive-throughs that crash into each other. Down the street from me, we've got $4 million homes plus going in, but the shopping center across the street has a discount grocery store, Annie's Pretzels, Jamba Juice, all places near and dear to my childhood heart. But wouldn't you think that maybe a Whole Foods would have been more appropriate? It just is very interesting. It's kind of just a frenzy, free for all. It's not like anything you've probably ever experienced before if you are a business owner or a developer. It really is that easy to get in and open something up. Now, if you hear that something is planned and happening and then you see people fighting it, just know that you need to pick and choose your battle, because people have fought off so many things thinking that they were going to totally hold the developing from happening, hold it back. But instead, what has happened is they end up with something way less than what we would have had originally. So let me give you an example. Across the street where I was just speaking about, where there's a discount grocery store and Jamba Juice and Annie's Pretzels from the $4 million houses, originally a long time ago, there was going to be a Costco. Someone in a very large HOA got everyone together, they rallied together, they fought, and no Costco. Then it was apartments and a high-end shopping area, and people were pretty excited about the shopping but not excited about the apartments. And so after all of that was approved and they were going to do that, they said, never mind. That's how we ended up with the discount grocery store and Annie's Pretzels. It would have been a lot better for the values of our homes to have the Costco or the high-end shopping center with the apartments than it would have the discount grocery store and the mall food court. So just know that the planning here is not great. It's pretty interesting, but all in all, most of us are pretty laid-back people. That's kind of the culture here. People really move here to slow down and not have a fast-paced, two-income job. So you're kind of going to get that vibe when you come out here and you see that there's not a ton of the industry that you're used to. And it's just kind of more houses, community, people getting outside and really experiencing nature and the outdoors, or bonding with the people in their communities. There's just not a lot of stuff, but we also don't have all the stuff we need. So that could be a big turnoff for some people. Politics. Politics is another reason you might not want to relocate to Idaho. Boise has gone woke. That is no joke.
Good one.
No, I'm definitely not a comedian. I'm a realtor and I'm on here for a reason. No, I originally relocated to downtown Boise, and at that time, even our newspaper and our local coffee shops was pretty middle of the road, leaning conservative, and it's just not the case anymore. A new mayor came in. We tried our darndest to recall her and it didn't happen. I don't know for the life of me how it didn't happen, but ever since she came in, there was a dramatic shift downtown, and it has gone really far left. That culture and mindset has really, there is a stronghold in our city in downtown Boise. With that being said, the surrounding communities, the surrounding suburbs, so Eagle, Meridian, Kuna, Nampa, you name it, everywhere outside of Boise, everyone is either fairly down the middle leaning right or pretty far right. And if you do have someone who's left, they're like old school Democrat in general. The thing that's so wonderful and I think important to realize about here is that everyone really cares about our kiddos. We're here to protect our kids, and I think that's a value that's really strong throughout the Treasure Valley. Not necessarily in downtown Boise. There was going to be a drag show during Pride Month, and a lot of people called the sponsors for the Pride Month show, and the community really came together, churches came together and got that stopped. So the community here fights to stop things happening in downtown Boise, and oftentimes it works. And with like anything else, our city is liberal, but then the surrounding areas are not so much, or are not at all, is how I should articulate it. So depending on where you land and what your values are, we can help you kind of go through and navigate which areas you want to avoid and where you would really feel like you're part of the community and equally aligned with the other people. Air quality. Some people have already heard me speak to the air quality here, but if you haven't, I'm going to give you a really quick rundown. So here in the Treasure Valley, Idaho, we sit down in a valley and the clouds cover the valley, and they tend to trap smoke from wildfires or controlled burns. So we've got tons of wildfires in Oregon, Washington, some parts of Idaho, and we also have controlled burns. The environmentalists, instead of letting foresters go in and log down trees that need to be logged because they have disease or they're dead or whatever it is, they force them here to do controlled burns. And in that controlled burn time, there's still fire or still smoke, and the smoke has to go somewhere. It settles down into the valley, and the air quality stinks during those times. So you're definitely, if you're someone who is elderly or you have really small children, asthma, just really keep in mind that there are times a year when the air quality here is not great. If you care a lot about that, we need to do something about these environmentalists who are preventing loggers from going in and logging. Loggers are not interested in destroying their forests. They wouldn't have an industry if their forests were destroyed, right? You need lumber, you need logs, trees to log. So anyway, the controlled burns, those are tough. Get yourself an air purification system in your house or for the individual rooms where anyone high risk is. There's also a season here where we have something called inversions. Now the inversions, from what I hear and understand, are a lot worse in some of the other areas that people are looking to relocate to, and I had not been aware of that, but I actually heard, for example, that Salt Lake City, Utah has horrible inversions. That is when the cloud cover sits over the valley and traps the cold air underneath the clouds, and then up above the clouds, all the heat and sunshine are trapped and all the air is moving around and circulating up there, but below here it is cold, bitter, icy. Sometimes it starts to smell bad depending on how long the inversion goes on. There's been years here where I'm like, did we have an inversion? I don't think we did. And then there's other years where I'm like, somebody get me out into the sunshine. I need a vacation. I'm starting to feel depressed. It gets cold and nasty, and the air quality is also poor at that time. So I think a lot of people associate Idaho with the outdoors and great air quality, and that's not the case year round. So it's really important to know those things. And really, at the end of the day, every person and every situation is unique, and that's why it's just very important that you give us a call, shoot us a text, or write us an email. Get set up on a Zoom call for us. We sit there and we explore everything there is to explore about you and your needs, and we make recommendations and set up tours based on what we think is the best fit for you and your family. Because just like I said earlier, one man's trash is another man's treasure, and we really have to sit down and figure out what makes sense for you. Until the next video, be blessed.